Hey guys, welcome back to A World Joe Traveled. Today I'm going to talk with you guys about Scotland. So Scotland was a location that I had wanted to go to for a really long time, and I finally made the trip last May. So what I'm going to do in this video is really talk pretty high level, and then I'm going to do some individual chapters that gets into a lot more detail about the very specific locations that I went to. But first I wanted to talk with you guys about why I went to Scotland and why it was pretty significant for me. So Scotland was the first country that I went to after or while I was getting divorced. So that was the first place I went to whenever I was unmarried or traveling as an unmarried person. So that was very different for me, but it was also very freeing. I really felt like I had control over my schedule, what I wanted to do, what I didn't want to do. I really got to make those decisions. And to me, that was just pretty liberating. Scotland was just so much fun, and I have tons of good memories from there. Another reason that I chose to go to Scotland is because I love the show Outlander, like completely obsessed with the show. I can't tell you how many times I've watched it. And really that show, this is going to sound weird, but I felt very connected to those characters. And I feel like they got me through a lot of lonely times. I was in a very lonely relationship, and I watched that show almost nightly. I know that sounds kind of sad, but that was another reason I wanted to go to Scotland. I wanted to see all the filming locations and just really experience all of that. And so I will do one episode just about the Outlander filming locations because it was super cool to go to where that actually took place. Another thing about Scotland was that on my father's side, I have ties to Scotland. So I wanted to see kind of where I came from. And I think I really like the family history side of things too. And so that was really cool for me. So I actually got to go to a location that I might have family ties to. That kind of sounds a little bit confusing, but it's really hard to say for sure whether you're actually from a certain location or a certain clan. But I got to visit one of those locations. All right, so let's talk need to know about Scotland. So first of all, what you're going to need to know, and I've got a ton of notes down here. So people there were insanely friendly. Everywhere I went, they would chat you up. They were super nice, super kind, very helpful. So if you run into somebody and you need some help, just talk to the locals and they will help you. Edinburgh is an extremely walkable city. So you can get really anywhere on your feet. There's also Uber, so I used Uber there, and then there was also trains as well as buses. So the buses ran really anywhere you needed to go as well. And if you want to see even more of the country like I did, I actually rented a car on Turo and drove that around. So it was a little terrifying to drive on the opposite side of the road on the opposite side of the car, but it was actually pretty easy to get used to once you got the hang of it. All right, food to try there. Everybody will tell you to try haggis. Make sure you get it from the right location. I tried it at a couple different restaurants and it was different at each one. And I will say at the nicer restaurants, it tasted better. So be that as it may, do with that what you want, but it tasted much better at the nicer restaurants than it did at the bars and pubs. So I really enjoy comfort food. Always have, probably always will. So if you're there, you've got to try the steak and ale pie. I got it probably at almost every place I went to, and it was delicious everywhere I went. So steak and ale pie, the beef was super tender, the gravy was delicious, and then there was a flaky crust on top. Awesome. So I haven't found another one in the States to compare, so The other thing that you have to try too is fish and chips. I think a lot of people think fish and chips whenever they think of England, but it was just as good in Scotland. So I would definitely try the fish and chips as well. And then Scotch, you have to try Scotch. There were some tasting tours you could go on. I didn't opt to do that because I'm not a big drinker, but I did try some Scotch and it was actually pretty good. And so you'll want to ask for recommendations. I know that there's different Scotches in the Highlands versus Lowlands. I don't really know anything about that, so I'm not going to even speak to it. But depending on the Highlands versus Lowlands, you've got stronger versus weaker, yeah, all the taste stuff. So anyways, ask the bartender, they will help you. That's what I did, and I was happy with the choice that I got. So if you go to Scotland, you have to hear the bagpipers as well. So I was really anxious about not being able to hear them or see them, but if you're on the Royal Mile, there were actually quite a few that were just standing and performing, and it was just really cool. It added to the ambiance of the city because Scotland's already super moody, and then you've got the bagpipes playing. Like it was really cool. We'll put some video up, but that, yeah, I loved that. All right, let's talk weather. So I think when anybody thinks about the UK, so England and Scotland, they think of it just being cold and rainy all the time. I was there in early May and it was pretty chilly, but the sun did come out more than I thought it would. That being said, it did rain a fair share while I was there too. So I would highly, highly recommend to bring waterproof shoes, as well as a raincoat, a lined raincoat. I wore my raincoat almost every day. So in every picture that you'll see or video that you'll see, I have a gray raincoat on. It was lined, it was super warm. So it also provided that covering against the rain, but it was also warm. So I would highly recommend that. I can link it below so you guys just have a reference on what to potentially purchase if you're going over there. I did bring a heavy coat as well. I think I only wore that once. So that could be because it was in early May. So whenever the sun did come out, it was pretty nice and warm. Okay, so I was there in early May, and what I wore was really just like flannels, t-shirts, my raincoat, and then jeans. That's really what I wore the whole time, or leggings whenever I was hiking. So I saw most of the country while I was there, not most of it, a lot of the Highlands and the Lowlands while I was there. And I will tell you too, my Dyson Airwrap didn't work. So whenever I plugged it in, it didn't work. And then I really struggled to get my straightener to work too. So I wore a lot of hats while I was there. All right, let's talk currency. So when I was in Edinburgh, or whenever I was in really the entire country of Scotland, my Discover card was not accepted in most locations. I didn't know this before I went, and I'm really glad that I brought a MasterCard as well. So always bring multiple forms of cards, and make sure that you tell them, obviously, that you're traveling, but Visa should work or will work, as well as MasterCard. I don't have an Amex, but I'm sure that that works as well, but Discover didn't work really anywhere that I went. I did use a little bit of cash on this trip, but there wasn't really a need for it. So what I generally do is I will take a debit card and I will just take out little bits of cash at a time, because sometimes you're gonna come across locations that will only take cash, whether it's a bakery or something like that. But yeah, so Discover didn't work, so always bring multiple forms of payment. just in case. So the last thing that I'm going to go over today is really the entire trip, the plan of the trip. So I went for 10 days. So first of all, I landed and stayed in Edinburgh for 2 nights. And then from there, I got a car and then drove all the way down to York, England. I really wanted to see York. It's been on my list for a while. It was within a couple of hours of driving, so I opted to just do it. Obviously, that doesn't make a lot of sense if you're just wanting to see Scotland, but I chose to do that. On my way back from York, I went straight to Glencoe. I did stop at a couple of castles along the way, and then I went to Glencoe and I stayed there for 1 night. And then from Glencoe, I went to the Isle of Skye and I stayed there for 2 nights. From Skye, I went on to Inverness and stayed there for 1 night. And then I went back to Edinburgh the following night and stayed there on my final night. So I'm going to put a list up of all the locations that I stayed in so you guys can see that. But in my next videos that I'm going to do, I will do a lot more details on each of those locations. So look forward to those coming out. Thank you for your support. You guys really enjoyed the Switzerland series, and so I'm just excited to share Scotland with you. But I just genuinely appreciate all of the likes and the comments and the views. I didn't think that I would get 100 subscribers, and I got over 3,000 in a couple of months, and I'm just ecstatic. So I really hope that you guys enjoy what we're putting out here for you, and if there's different things you guys want to see, let us know in the comments below. Yeah, that's all I've got for today. Please like and subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and thank you.